We spoke with Jeremy Schaap earlier this morning in Paris, and I started off by asking the Danettes, beginning with Todd, whether or not they thought that Jeremy Schaap of the mothership could speak fluent French.
Yes.
Seton.
It's one of the many languages he speaks, yes.
Marvin.
Yes.
Paulie.
Probably majored in English, but yes.
I'm going to say no way. Jeremy.
Are you asking me now? Do I get to?
Yes.
I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment privileges. I did take 9 years of French, but it made virtually no impact on me. I try. I do put in the time and the effort, but usually it just gets me into trouble. I know just enough to be dangerous, Dan.
9 years?
9 years. 4th grade through 12th grade. In fact, I went to a junior high school in New York that was primarily a French school. Basically, every other kid spoke French. And so I was already too far behind. But I blame my teachers. They were cruel.
Yeah, of course.
Punishments.
Let's look back on Sunday. The biggest story of Sunday, Djokovic, Scheffler, Noah Lyles, other.
Noah Lyles is the biggest story. It's the 100-meter dash. It's, historically one of the marquee events at the Olympic Games. Golf is something I still don't really associate with the Olympics, frankly, and it goes the same for tennis. I mean, they've been part of the programs now for some time, tennis more than golf, but those are sports that have their other moments. when you're talking about the Olympics, you're talking about Jesse Owens and Bob Hayes and Jackie Joyner-Kersee and Donovan Bailey and Usain Bolt, and this is the race that confers the status as the fastest man in the world, the fastest human on the planet. And it wasn't just that he won; it was a spectacular race. And you know how it goes at the Olympics, Dan. These things are spread out all over a city, in some cases all over a country, and you don't get to everything. But last night, I went up to the Stade de France, just outside of the périphérique, North Paris and Saint Denis, because I wanted to see the 100-meter dash in person. I'd never seen it in person before. I'd seen the 4x100 a few times, and the way they build up the hype and the drama as the race is about to start. I mean, it's like when Roy Jones used to fight or Mike Tyson used to fight. They really, made it a show. And by the time that race starts and you've been sitting there, and, I was enjoying the other stuff too. I'm a big fan of the hammer throw. But you're ready for that, 10 seconds. And it was a spectacular race. And we were all standing there just like the runners themselves at the end, wondering who'd won. That's a great race.
I mentioned to the audience, I mentioned to the Danettes quite a few times, one of the greatest moments I ever had at the Olympics was in London with Usain Bolt and watching what he was running the 200 meters. TV spoils you because it keeps everything in frame. When you're there watching, you get the true sense of just how fast somebody is. On TV, you're like, wow, they're all kind of running together, and there it is, it's over.
It flattens the whole thing.
Yes.
It flattens the whole thing. And as I said, I've been to the 4x100 a couple of times. I remember seeing, Donovan Bailey's team Canada win in '96 in Atlanta. The U.S. often, messes up the pass. But the 100, and to see those fastest humans on the planet, and I think it was 979 to 991. All of the guys. We're talking about 12 100ths of a second separating first place and last place, and Noah Lyles having to overcome a tough start to win the race. And it's been a long drought for America in the sprints. This is an event that we've dominated since the revival of the Olympic Games in 1896 in Athens, Dan, and then all the great names and the Eddie Tolans and the Ralph Metcalfs and the Jesse Owenses and Harrison Dillards, and we could go on, right? Hayes and Hines. It was really exciting.
Talking to Jeremy Schaap of the Mothership, joining us from Paris. USA swimming in Australia. Do we not like each other? Is it a true rivalry?
I mean, it always has been. I'm not around the swimmers asking them about, what you feel about this person personally, et cetera, et cetera. But, it's always been one of the great rivalries in swimming. And I think, I'm not sure the current medal count going back all the way beginning, but if you were to ask me who are the two nations that have dominated swimming over the last 130 years, it's Australia, right? And the United States. The United States, number one, Australia, number two. And there was a lot of disappointment for the U.S. in this swim competition. There was a lot of greatness. There was a lot of triumph. There was, absolute transcendence from Katie Ledecky, the 1500 and the 800 and the 4x200. But there were some disappointments, and not just, for people that we kind of had an eye on as up and comers, but for people who had proven themselves previously.
Simone Biles, 27, Katie Ledecky, 27, more likely to be in Los Angeles, in your opinion?
Simone Biles, I think is sick of answering that question. I think Katie Ledecky's sick of answering that question. They're both 20. I think they were born within 3 or 4 days of each other. They came into these games, Dan, as arguably the two greatest ever in their respective sports. And they emerge from these games, only burnishing those legacies. I mean, what they've done and at 27, which, there have been exceptions, and it's been changing over the years, as athletes and these sports become professionalized, extending their careers. But, there was a time when 27 was geriatric in these sports.
Yeah.
And they're not just winning, right? They're still dominating. So, why wouldn't they do it? Only because you would have to imagine it's going to take so much out of them. If these next games, right, were back in Beijing, or, they were in, Stockholm, if they were anywhere other than Los Angeles in the United States, I would say, yeah, I think this is a good way to go out, right? You've got your records, your legacy is unquestioned, but there are going to be so many opportunities.
A lot of
over
money,
the next
though,
4
Jeremy.
years.
A lot of money attached to those two going into the next Olympics, though.
That's right.
That has to play a factor.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's going to be, especially being in the U.S., but, is it as if, though, there isn't going to be money even if they walk away now? I don't know. I think obviously there will be, but I think it's a different order of magnitude if we've got those games in the U.S. If they're competing in those games in 4 years.
Give me the Paris review of Paris as a host city.
Look, I wasn't there in 1924, Dan, the last time they had the Olympics, or in 1904 or 1900, the first time, I should say. Those were the two previous occasions on which Paris played host to the Olympics. Look, I don't want to jinx it. We still got a full week to go. A lot can happen in the last week. But, when we talk about these things in terms of logistics, in terms of, putting on a good show, I think, they're getting an A+, or, whatever the French equivalent in the school system is. It was kind of crazy, right, to roll the dice on that opening ceremony down the Seine. It was such a massive, over-the-top production. And there was, a very good likelihood it was going to rain on their parade. And, of course, it did. But they like to take their chances, and they did. And so far, I think about this. If things weren't going well, you've got the media of the world coming together here in Paris, you'd be hearing about it. And so far, I think, it's been a spectacular backdrop to some great competition.
All right, before we say goodbye, you took 9 years of French when you were in grade school and high school, so why don't you bid us adieu with a little bit of French from Paris?
I could sing some of the Marseillaise. That would be Allons enfants de la patrie. Oh, God, don't make me do it, Dan. I'll just say, au revoir, merci. Dan.
I'm going to give you a bronze for that.
It's more than I deserve.
Yes, that's true. Be safe over there. Thanks for joining us.
Love you.
Jeremy Schaap from the Mothership over there covering the Olympic Games.